Have you ever felt like you're living a life that doesn't truly belong to you? Like every decision is quietly shaped by someone else's expectations, every word carefully chosen so no one feels disappointed? You keep giving, adjusting, and sacrificing, hoping to be accepted, yet deep inside, there's a silent emptiness that no amount of approval can fill. What if the exhaustion you feel isn't from doing too much, but from being someone you were never meant to be? In this video, you'll discover how Buddhist wisdom can help you release the need for approval, reclaim your true self, and finally experience the peace of living authentically. The quiet disappearance of who you truly are. Losing yourself rarely happens in a single dramatic moment. It does not arrive with loud warnings or sudden changes. Instead, it unfolds quietly, through small compromises made day after day. You begin by adjusting your words so that no one feels uncomfortable. You agree with opinions you do not truly share. You say yes when your heart gently whispers no. You hide your real feelings to avoid conflict and slowly place the needs of others above your own. At first, these choices seem harmless, even kind. You tell yourself that you are simply being considerate, supportive, or loving. And in many ways, you are. But over time, these repeated compromises begin to create distance between you and your true self. Each time you silence your voice or ignore your desires, a small part of your identity fades. Without realizing it, you start living a life shaped more by expectations than by your own inner truth. As this pattern continues, a subtle emptiness begins to grow. You may appear calm and accommodating on the outside, yet inside there is a quiet sense of confusion. You might struggle to answer simple questions like, "What do I truly want?" or "What genuinely makes me happy?" Decisions become difficult because you have spent so long focusing on others that you have lost touch with your own needs. Gradually, you begin to feel like a stranger in your own life, present in body, but disconnected in spirit. This quiet disappearance often brings emotional exhaustion. The constant effort to maintain harmony, avoid disappointment, and meet expectations can leave you feeling drained. Even when you receive appreciation from others, the satisfaction is temporary because it is not rooted in authenticity. Deep within, there remains a longing to be seen, heard, and accepted for who you truly are. Buddhist wisdom gently sheds light on this experience. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we become disconnected from our true nature and attach our sense of worth to external approval. When we seek happiness by shaping ourselves to fit the expectations of others, we move further away from inner peace. True harmony is not found in constant self-sacrifice, but in living with awareness and honesty. Mindfulness invites us to pause and observe these patterns with compassion rather than judgment. By becoming aware of the moments when we compromise our truth, we begin to reconnect with ourselves. This awareness is the first step toward healing. It allows us to make conscious choices that honor both our well-being and our relationships. Reclaiming your true self does not require sudden or dramatic changes. It begins with small, gentle acts of honesty. It may be as simple as expressing your genuine opinion, acknowledging your feelings, or allowing yourself to say no without guilt. Each of these moments is a step back toward authenticity. With time, these choices rebuild a sense of inner alignment and self-trust. Remember, choosing to honor your true nature is not selfish. It is an act of courage and self-respect. When you live in harmony with who you truly are, your relationships become more sincere, your decisions more meaningful, and your inner world more peaceful. You no longer need to perform a role to be accepted. Instead, you allow your authentic presence to shine naturally. The quiet disappearance of the self can happen to anyone, but it is never permanent. The moment you become aware of it is the moment your return begins. By embracing your inner truth with kindness and courage, you open the door to a life of genuine peace, freedom, and fulfillment. The fragile illusion of living for approval. Living for the approval of others can feel comforting at first. When someone praises you, appreciates your efforts, or expresses satisfaction with your actions, it creates a warm sense of belonging. You feel accepted, valued, and reassured that you are doing the right thing. These moments can be deeply satisfying, and it is natural to desire connection and acceptance. However, this sense of security is fragile because it depends entirely on the changing opinions of others. Approval is never permanent. The same people who praise you today may question or criticize you tomorrow. Expectations shift, moods change, and circumstances evolve. When your happiness is built on such an unstable foundation, your inner peace becomes unpredictable. You may find yourself constantly adjusting your behavior, trying to anticipate what others want, and worrying about how you are being perceived. This ongoing effort can quietly create anxiety and emotional exhaustion. Over time, living for approval turns life into a performance. Instead of acting from genuine desire, you begin to measure your worth through the reactions of others. Decisions are no longer guided by what feels meaningful to you, but by what will earn appreciation or avoid criticism. You may start to suppress your true opinions, hide your authentic personality, and reshape your dreams to fit expectations. Although this may bring temporary harmony, it gradually distances you from your inner truth. Buddhist wisdom beautifully explains this struggle through the teaching of the 8 worldly winds: praise and blame, gain and loss, pleasure and pain, fame and disrepute. These forces are constantly shifting, and anyone who bases their identity on them will inevitably experience instability. When you depend on praise to feel worthy, you also become vulnerable to blame. When you seek recognition, you may fear being overlooked. Understanding this truth helps reveal why approval can never provide lasting peace. Another hidden cost of seeking approval is the quiet loss of self-trust. When you rely on others to validate your choices, you begin to doubt your own inner voice. Instead of asking, "What feels right for me?" you may find yourself asking, "What will make them happy?" This gradual shift weakens your connection to your intuition, leaving you feeling uncertain and disconnected from your own guidance. Mindfulness offers a gentle path toward freedom from this illusion. By becoming aware of the moments when you seek validation, you can begin to pause and reflect. Notice how your emotions rise and fall with praise or criticism. Rather than judging yourself, simply observe these patterns with compassion. This awareness creates space to make choices that are aligned with your authentic values rather than external expectations. True peace emerges when your sense of worth is rooted within, not in the opinions of others. When you begin to honor your own values and listen to your inner wisdom, approval becomes a pleasant addition rather than a necessity. You can still appreciate recognition and connection, but they no longer define your identity. Instead, you act from a place of sincerity and self-respect. Letting go of the need for approval does not mean rejecting others or becoming indifferent to relationships. Rather, it allows you to engage with people more authentically. When you are no longer performing for acceptance, your connections become deeper and more genuine. Others are able to know and appreciate the real you, not the version shaped by their expectations. The realization that approval is an illusion is not a loss, it is a profound liberation. It frees you from the constant pressure to meet shifting standards and opens the door to a life of authenticity and inner stability. As Buddhist teachings remind us, lasting happiness arises not from external validation, but from understanding and embracing our true nature. When you release the fragile illusion of living for approval, you reclaim your inner freedom. you begin to live with quiet confidence, guided by your own truth. And in this freedom, you discover a peace that no praise can give and no criticism can take away. The hidden fear of rejection that controls your life. Beneath the habit of trying to please everyone lies a quiet and powerful force, the fear of rejection. This fear is often invisible, yet it shapes many of your decisions, thoughts, and behaviors. It whispers that if you express your true feelings, people may withdraw their love, judge you, or leave you behind. To avoid this possibility, you begin to adjust yourself, hoping that by meeting every expectation, you will secure acceptance and belonging. This fear rarely begins in adulthood. It often takes root early in life, shaped by experiences where love or approval seemed conditional. Perhaps you were praised only when you succeeded, or you learned that harmony was maintained by staying silent and agreeable. Over time, the mind absorbs these patterns and creates a belief: I must be who others want me to be in order to be loved. Without realizing it, this belief becomes a guiding force, quietly influencing how you live your life. The fear of rejection does not always appear as obvious anxiety. Instead, it manifests in subtle ways. You may hesitate to share your honest opinions, avoid setting boundaries, or feel uncomfortable when someone is displeased with you. Even small signs of disapproval, a change in tone, a delayed response, or a critical comment can trigger deep unease. In response, you might over-explain, apologize unnecessarily, or sacrifice your own needs to restore a sense of acceptance. Living under the control of this fear is emotionally exhausting. It creates a constant state of vigilance, as if you must always monitor how others perceive you. Decisions become less about what feels right for you and more about preventing the possibility of being disliked or abandoned. Over time, this pattern weakens your connection to your authentic self, leaving you feeling anxious, uncertain, and dependent on external reassurance. Buddhist wisdom offers profound insight into this struggle. The Buddha taught that much of human suffering arises from attachment, especially the attachment to being accepted and the aversion to being rejected. This fear is rooted in the illusion that our worth depends on the opinions of others. In reality, our true nature is inherently whole and complete. When we forget this truth, we become trapped in a cycle of seeking validation and fearing its loss. Mindfulness provides a gentle path to liberation from this hidden chain. By observing your thoughts and emotions without judgment, you begin to recognize the moments when fear is guiding your actions. You may notice the tension that arises when you consider saying no, or the anxiety that surfaces when expressing a differing opinion. Instead of suppressing these feelings, mindfulness invites you to acknowledge them with compassion, understanding that they are learned responses rather than reflections of your true worth. As awareness deepens, a powerful realization begins to emerge. Rejection, while uncomfortable, does not diminish your value. Not everyone will understand or agree with you, and this is a natural part of human diversity. When you accept this truth, the fear that once controlled your life starts to lose its power. You no longer feel compelled to sacrifice your authenticity for the sake of acceptance. Releasing the fear of rejection does not mean becoming indifferent to relationships. Rather, it allows you to engage with others from a place of honesty and self-respect. When you express your true self, the connections you form become more genuine and meaningful. Those who resonate with your authenticity will remain, while those who do not create space for relationships that align more closely with your values. This transformation begins with small, courageous steps. It may involve expressing a sincere opinion, setting a gentle boundary, or allowing yourself to be seen as you truly are. Each of these moments strengthens your inner confidence and reinforces the understanding that your worth is not dependent on external approval. Ultimately, the hidden fear of rejection is an illusion that keeps you from living freely. As Buddhist teachings remind us, liberation arises when we release attachment to how we are perceived and reconnect with our inherent wholeness. When you let go of this fear, you reclaim the courage to live authentically, guided by your own inner wisdom. In this newfound freedom, you discover a profound sense of peace. You realize that belonging does not come from changing who you are to fit others' expectations, but from embracing your true self with compassion and courage. And in doing so, you step into a life no longer controlled by fear, but illuminated by authenticity and inner strength. Compassion should never require self-abandonment. Compassion is one of the most beautiful qualities a human being can embody. It allows us to care for others, to offer kindness in times of suffering, and to create connections built on empathy and understanding. Many people who try to please everyone are, at their core, deeply compassionate individuals. They genuinely want others to feel happy, safe, and supported. However, there is a subtle misunderstanding that often arises: the belief that being compassionate means constantly putting others first, even at the expense of one's own well-being. Over time, this misunderstanding can lead to self-abandonment. You may begin to ignore your own needs, silence your emotions, and sacrifice your personal boundaries in the name of kindness. You say yes when you feel overwhelmed, offer support when you are emotionally drained, and prioritize others' happiness while neglecting your own. At first, this may feel noble and selfless, but gradually it creates an inner imbalance where your own heart is left unheard and uncared for. Buddhist wisdom gently reminds us that true compassion is never meant to exclude ourselves. The Buddha taught the importance of metta, or loving kindness, which begins within. Before we can genuinely care for others, we must first cultivate kindness toward ourselves. Just as a lamp must be lit to illuminate a room, the heart must be nourished to offer authentic compassion. When we neglect our own well-being, our ability to support others becomes limited and unsustainable. Self-abandonment often leads to emotional exhaustion and quiet resentment. When you consistently give more than you have, you may begin to feel depleted, unappreciated, or even invisible. These feelings do not arise because compassion is flawed, but because it has become unbalanced. True compassion flows from a place of inner fullness, not from a sense of obligation or fear of disappointing others. Another important teaching in Buddhism is the middle way, which emphasizes balance in all aspects of life. This principle encourages us to avoid extremes, neither selfish indulgence nor self-neglect. Applying this wisdom to compassion means learning to care for others while also honoring our own needs. It is about recognizing that your well-being is just as valuable as anyone else's. When compassion is balanced, it nurtures both the giver and the receiver, creating harmony rather than sacrifice. Setting boundaries is a powerful expression of this balanced compassion. Boundaries are not barriers that push people away. They are gentle guidelines that protect your energy and emotional health. They allow you to give from a place of sincerity rather than obligation. For example, choosing to rest when you are tired or respectfully declining a request when you feel overwhelmed does not diminish your kindness. Instead, it ensures that the compassion you offer remains genuine and sustainable. Self-compassion also plays a vital role in this transformation. Many people are kind and forgiving toward others, but harsh and critical toward themselves. Buddhism encourages us to treat ourselves with the same understanding we extend to those we love. When you acknowledge your own needs, forgive your imperfections, and honor your feelings, you create a foundation of inner peace. This self-compassion strengthens your capacity to support others without losing yourself in the process. As you begin to practice compassion without self-abandonment, your relationships naturally evolve. They become more authentic and balanced, rooted in mutual respect rather than silent sacrifice. People learn to appreciate the real you, not just the version that constantly accommodates their expectations. This shift fosters deeper connections and a greater sense of emotional harmony. Choosing yourself within the practice of compassion is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of wisdom and courage. It reflects an understanding that your life and well-being hold equal value. When you honor your own needs, you create a stable foundation from which genuine kindness can flow effortlessly. Compassion that includes yourself leads to true inner peace. You no longer feel the need to disappear in order to be loving. Instead, you stand firmly in your authenticity while extending kindness to others. This balanced approach embodies the essence of Buddhist teaching, a harmonious union of wisdom and compassion. You are not meant to lose yourself while caring for others. Your heart deserves the same tenderness you so freely give. When compassion embraces both yourself and those around you, it becomes a source of healing, strength, and lasting peace. Awakening through mindful awareness of your true needs, the journey of reclaiming yourself begins with a gentle yet powerful shift awareness. Before any meaningful change can take place, there must first be a moment of seeing clearly. Many people move through life on autopilot, responding to expectations, fulfilling responsibilities, and adapting to the needs of others without ever pausing to ask a simple question: what do I truly need? Mindful awareness creates the space where this question can finally be heard. Mindfulness, a central teaching in Buddhism, is the practice of paying attention to the present moment with openness and without judgment. It invites you to observe your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors with kindness rather than criticism. Through this awareness, you begin to notice the subtle moments when you ignore your own needs. When you agree to something despite feeling overwhelmed, suppress your feelings to maintain harmony, or continue giving even when your energy is depleted. These realizations are not meant to create guilt. Instead, they illuminate the path toward healing and self-understanding. As awareness deepens, a quiet reconnection with your inner voice begins to emerge. This voice has always been present, gently guiding you toward what nourishes your well-being and aligns with your values. However, when life is dominated by the desire to please others, this inner guidance often becomes faint and difficult to recognize. Mindfulness helps restore this connection, allowing you to distinguish between actions driven by genuine compassion and those motivated by fear, obligation, or the need for approval. This awakening is not sudden or dramatic. It unfolds gradually through small, conscious moments. You may start by noticing the physical sensations in your body, the tension that arises when you feel pressured to say yes, or the sense of relief that follows when you honor your truth. These signals serve as gentle messengers, guiding you toward choices that support your emotional and spiritual well-being. By listening to them, you cultivate a deeper sense of self-trust and clarity. Understanding your true needs also involves acknowledging that they are valid and deserving of care. Many people have been conditioned to believe that prioritizing themselves is selfish. Buddhist teachings, however, emphasize balance and compassion for all beings, including oneself. When you recognize that your well-being holds equal importance, you begin to treat your needs with the same kindness and respect you offer to others. This shift fosters inner harmony and strengthens your capacity to engage with the world authentically. Mindful awareness also transforms the way you make decisions. Instead of reacting automatically to external expectations, you gain the ability to respond with intention. This pause between stimulus and response allows you to choose actions that align with your values and preserve your inner peace. Over time, these mindful choices reshape your life, creating a sense of alignment between who you are and how you live. Incorporating mindfulness into daily life does not require complex rituals. Simple practices can create profound change. Taking a few moments each day to sit in silence, observing your breath, or reflecting on your feelings can nurture this awareness. Journaling your thoughts, gently checking in with yourself before making commitments, or asking, "Is this choice honoring my well-being?" are powerful ways to stay connected to your true needs. These small acts of presence gradually strengthen your relationship with yourself. As this awareness continues to grow, a sense of inner peace begins to replace the confusion and exhaustion that once accompanied people-pleasing. You start to feel more grounded and confident in your decisions. Relationships become more authentic because they are based on honesty rather than silent sacrifice. Life gains a new sense of clarity and purpose, guided by an inner compass rather than external pressures. This awakening through mindful awareness marks a turning point in the journey towards self-reclamation. By listening to your true needs with compassion and courage, you step into a life that reflects your authentic essence. Each moment of awareness becomes an act of liberation, gently guiding you back to yourself and opening the door to lasting peace and fulfillment. Sacred boundaries, the courage to honor your inner peace. For many people, the idea of setting boundaries feels uncomfortable. It can bring a sense of guilt or fear, as if saying no might disappoint others or create distance in relationships. Those who are used to pleasing everyone often believe that maintaining harmony requires constant availability and sacrifice. However, what is often misunderstood is that boundaries are not acts of rejection, they are acts of self-respect and wisdom. Sacred boundaries are gentle lines that protect your emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. They define where your responsibility ends and where another person's responsibility begins. Without these boundaries, it becomes easy to absorb the expectations, emotions, and demands of others, leaving little space for your own needs. Over time, this can lead to exhaustion, resentment, and a deep sense of disconnection from yourself. In Buddhist teachings, balance is essential for a peaceful life. The principle of the middle way encourages us to avoid extremes, neither losing ourselves in self-sacrifice nor isolating ourselves in self-centeredness. Sacred boundaries embody this balance. They allow you to remain compassionate and connected to others while still honoring your own well-being. When you protect your inner peace, you are not turning away from others. You are ensuring that the kindness you offer comes from a place of sincerity and strength. Setting boundaries requires courage because it often challenges long-standing patterns of behavior. You may worry about how others will react or fear being perceived as selfish. Yet, true relationships are not weakened by honesty, they are strengthened by it. When you express your limits with kindness and clarity, you invite mutual respect and understanding. People begin to see and appreciate the real you, rather than the version shaped solely by their expectations. Boundaries can take many forms, and they do not need to be harsh or confrontational. They may involve declining a request when you feel overwhelmed, taking time for rest without guilt, or expressing your feelings openly and respectfully. Even small actions, such as allowing yourself moments of solitude or prioritizing activities that nourish your well-being, are powerful steps toward honoring your inner peace. Each boundary you set reinforces the message that your needs and feelings are valid. An important aspect of sacred boundaries is the cultivation of self-trust. When you consistently honor your limits, you strengthen your confidence in your own inner guidance. This trust allows you to make decisions with clarity rather than hesitation. Instead of seeking constant approval, you begin to rely on your own wisdom, creating a stable foundation for emotional and spiritual well-being. Buddhist wisdom also emphasizes the connection between boundaries and mindfulness. Through mindful awareness, you become more attuned to the moments when your energy is being depleted or when your actions are no longer aligned with your values. This awareness enables you to respond thoughtfully rather than react out of habit. By pausing and reflecting, You can choose actions that protect your peace while maintaining compassion for others. As you embrace sacred boundaries, you may notice a transformation in your relationships. Interactions become more authentic and balanced, rooted in mutual respect rather than silent sacrifice. You are able to give and receive support in a way that feels nourishing rather than draining. This shift not only enhances your well-being, but also encourages others to honor their own boundaries, creating a ripple effect of healthier and more harmonious connections. It is also important to recognize that honoring your inner peace is not an act of selfishness. Instead, it is an expression of deep self-compassion and wisdom. Just as a calm lake reflects the beauty of its surroundings, a peaceful mind is better able to offer clarity, kindness, and understanding to others. By protecting your inner peace, you create the conditions for genuine compassion to flourish. The journey of establishing sacred boundaries is a gradual and compassionate process. It does not require perfection or drastic changes. Each small step, each moment of honesty, each gentle no, and each act of self-care brings you closer to a life of authenticity and balance. With time, these choices become natural expressions of self-respect. Sacred boundaries are, in essence, a declaration that your well-being matters. They affirm your right to live in alignment with your true self while remaining open and compassionate toward others. Through the courage to honor your inner peace, you reclaim your energy, strengthen your relationships, and step into a life guided by wisdom and authenticity. In embracing these boundaries, you discover a profound sense of freedom. You no longer feel compelled to sacrifice yourself for the comfort of others. Instead, you stand firmly in your truth, offering kindness from a place of wholeness. This is the essence of sacred boundaries, a harmonious balance between caring for others and honoring the peace within. Liberation begins when you release the need to be liked. One of the most subtle chains that binds the human heart is the desire to be liked by everyone. It often begins as a natural wish for connection and belonging, but over time, it can quietly shape the way you think, speak, and live. You may find yourself adjusting your personality to match the expectations of others, avoiding honesty to prevent conflict, and making decisions based not on what feels true to you, but on what will earn approval. While this behavior may create temporary harmony, it gradually distances you from your authentic self. The need to be liked is rooted in a deep longing for acceptance. It whispers the belief that your worth depends on how others perceive you. This belief can lead to constant self-monitoring, carefully choosing words, suppressing opinions, and seeking reassurance that you are valued. Such vigilance is emotionally exhausting, as it places your sense of identity in the hands of ever-changing opinions. When approval becomes the measure of self-worth, inner peace becomes fragile and uncertain. Buddhist wisdom offers profound insight into this struggle. The Buddha taught that attachment to praise and aversion to criticism are part of the shifting conditions of life, often referred to as the 8 worldly winds. These forces, praise and blame, gain and loss, pleasure and pain, fame and disrepute, are constantly changing. When you anchor your happiness to these external conditions, your emotional state rises and falls with them. Recognizing their impermanent nature allows you to step off this unstable ground and discover a deeper sense of stability within yourself. Releasing the need to be liked does not mean becoming indifferent or unkind. Instead, it signifies a shift from seeking validation to living with authenticity. When you no longer rely on external approval, you gain the freedom to express your true thoughts and feelings with honesty and compassion. This authenticity fosters deeper and more meaningful connections, as people are drawn to the sincerity of your presence rather than a carefully constructed persona. Letting go of this attachment requires courage. There may be moments of discomfort as you begin to express your true self, especially if others are accustomed to a version of you that always seeks to please. Some relationships may change, and not everyone will understand your transformation. However, these changes are part of the natural process of growth. By honoring your truth, you create space for relationships that are rooted in mutual respect and genuine appreciation. Mindfulness plays a vital role in this liberation. By observing your thoughts and emotional reactions, you can recognize when the desire to be liked is influencing your behavior. You may notice the hesitation before expressing an honest opinion, or the anxiety that arises when facing potential disapproval. Through gentle awareness, you can pause and choose actions that align with your values rather than with the need for acceptance. Each mindful choice strengthens your sense of inner freedom. As you release the need to be liked, a profound transformation unfolds. You begin to experience a quiet confidence that is not dependent on external validation. Decisions become clearer because they are guided by your inner wisdom. Relationships become more authentic, and your interactions with others are marked by sincerity and openness. This newfound freedom allows you to engage with the world from a place of wholeness rather than from a desire to be approved. This liberation also deepens your compassion for others. When you are no longer preoccupied with how you are perceived, you can truly listen and connect with those around you. Your kindness becomes more genuine because it arises from authenticity rather than from the need to secure acceptance. In this way, releasing the need to be liked not only transforms your inner world, but also enriches your relationships. Embracing this freedom is a gradual and gentle journey. It begins with small acts of courage, sharing your honest thoughts, setting boundaries, or simply allowing yourself to be seen as you truly are. Each step reinforces the understanding that your worth is inherent and does not depend on the approval of others. With time, these choices cultivate a deep sense of peace and self-trust. Liberation from the need to be liked is not about rejecting connection, it is about redefining it. True belonging arises when you are accepted for who you genuinely are, not for the role you play to satisfy others. By releasing this attachment, you step into a life of authenticity, inner stability, and emotional freedom. In this space of liberation, you discover a profound truth. You do not need to be liked by everyone to live a meaningful and peaceful life. When you honor your authentic self, you naturally attract relationships that resonate with your true essence. This is the essence of freedom, a life guided not by the shifting opinions of others, but by the quiet wisdom and peace that reside within you. Reclaiming your authentic self and returning to inner freedom. After a long journey of living for others, there comes a quiet yet powerful moment when you begin to return to yourself. This moment is not marked by dramatic change or sudden revelation. Instead, it unfolds gently, like the first light of dawn after a long night. You start to sense that your life no longer needs to be shaped by expectations, fears, or the constant search for approval. A new awareness arises, one that invites you to rediscover who you truly are. Reclaiming your authentic self means reconnecting with the essence that has always existed within you. Beneath the layers of conditioning, obligations, and silent compromises lies a natural state of peace, clarity, and wholeness. Throughout your life, this true self may have been overshadowed by the desire to belong or to avoid rejection, but it was never lost. It patiently waited for the moment when you would turn inward and listen once again to its quiet guidance. This return to authenticity often begins with small, meaningful choices. You may start expressing your thoughts with honesty, allowing your feelings to be acknowledged, and making decisions that align with your values rather than with external expectations. Each of these steps strengthens your connection to your inner truth. With time, these gentle acts of courage rebuild your sense of self-trust and remind you that your voice and presence are valuable. Buddhist wisdom beautifully supports this transformation. The teachings of the Buddha emphasize that every individual possesses an inherent capacity for awakening, a natural clarity of mind that is free from attachment and illusion. When you let go of the need to please everyone, you remove the layers that once obscured this clarity. In doing so, you rediscover a sense of inner freedom that is not dependent on circumstances or the approval of others. As you reclaim your authentic self, you may notice a profound shift in how you experience life. Decisions become clearer because they are guided by your inner wisdom rather than by fear or obligation. Relationships grow more genuine as they are based on honesty and mutual respect instead of silent sacrifice. You begin to feel a quiet confidence, a steady sense of peace that remains even when external conditions change. Returning to inner freedom also involves embracing self-compassion. There may be moments when you reflect on the years spent living according to others' expectations and feel a sense of regret. Buddhist teachings encourage you to meet these reflections with kindness rather than judgment. Every experience, including those shaped by people-pleasing, has contributed to your growth and understanding. By forgiving yourself and honoring your journey, you create space for healing and renewal. Inner freedom does not mean withdrawing from the world or disregarding the needs of others. Instead, it allows you to engage with life from a place of authenticity and balance. When you are rooted in your true self, your actions arise from genuine compassion rather than from obligation. You are able to give and receive love more fully because your relationships are no longer shaped by the fear of losing yourself. This transformation often brings a deep sense of peace and fulfillment. The constant tension between who you are and who you believe you should be begins to dissolve. In its place emerges a harmonious alignment between your inner values and your outer life. You feel more present, more grounded, and more connected to the beauty of each moment. This is the essence of inner freedom, a state of being where you are no longer confined by the expectations of others, but are guided by the wisdom of your own heart. Reclaiming your authentic self is not a destination, but an ongoing journey of awareness and growth. Each day offers new opportunities to honor your truth, nurture your well-being, and live with intention. With every step you take toward authenticity, you strengthen the foundation of a life rooted in peace and meaning. In embracing this return to yourself, you discover one of the most profound truths of Buddhist wisdom. Freedom is not something that needs to be found outside of you. It has always resided within. When you allow this inner freedom to guide your life, you no longer feel the need to perform or to seek validation. Instead, you live with quiet confidence, authenticity, and compassion. Reclaiming your authentic self is an act of courage and love. It is the gentle yet powerful realization that you were never meant to disappear in order to belong. By returning to your true nature, you open the door to a life of genuine peace, meaningful connections, and lasting fulfillment. This is the moment when you truly come home to yourself, a moment where inner freedom becomes not just a possibility, but a living reality. Perhaps, as you listened to these words, you began to recognize pieces of your own story. The times you stayed silent to keep the peace. The moments you said yes, while your heart longed to say no. The dreams you quietly set aside so that others could feel comfortable. These experiences are not signs of weakness. They are reflections of a kind and compassionate heart that simply wanted to be loved and accepted. But there comes a moment in every life when the soul grows tired of disappearing, not in anger, not in rebellion, but in quiet awakening. A gentle realization begins to rise within you, a realization that you were never meant to shrink yourself to fit into the expectations of others. You were never meant to silence your truth in order to belong. Your presence, your voice, and your authenticity are not burdens. They are gifts meant to be shared with the world. Choosing yourself does not mean turning away from others. It means returning home to the person you were always meant to be. It is the courage to honor your feelings, to trust your inner wisdom, and to live in alignment with your true nature. When you take this step, something beautiful begins to unfold. The constant need for approval fades, replaced by a quiet confidence. Relationships become more genuine, decisions more meaningful, and your heart begins to experience a peace that no external validation can provide. Buddhist wisdom gently reminds us that true freedom is not found in controlling the world around us, but in understanding and embracing ourselves. When you release the need to please everyone, you do not lose love. You make space for the kind of love that sees and accepts you as you truly are. You discover that belonging does not come from changing who you are, but from honoring your authentic self. If you have spent years living for others, let this moment be a turning point. Not a dramatic transformation, but a gentle promise to yourself. A promise to listen to your inner voice, to respect your needs, and to walk through life with honesty and compassion. Each small step you take toward authenticity is a step toward inner freedom. And as you move forward, carry this truth in your heart. You are already enough. You do not need to earn your worth, prove your value, or sacrifice your identity to be loved. The peace you have been searching for has always lived within you, patiently waiting for the moment you choose to return. So, take a deep breath, release the weight of expectations, and allow yourself to simply be. Because the moment you stop living for others is the moment you finally begin to live for yourself. And in that moment, you don't just change your life, you rediscover the freedom, peace, and wholeness that have always been yours. If this message touched your heart, comment, "I choose myself." Subscribe to Golden Lotus Wisdom for more peaceful reflections, and share this video with someone who may need this reminder.